and you look at our key industry metrics, what about us? You look at our store count, it remained reasonably flat. 154,000 convenience stores in the United States right now. You look at our inside sales, although our store count was flat, we increased our inside sales by 3.2%. I always love this slide when you look at the composition of our industry. We've always talked about two different subsets of our industry, those guys that have one store, and then those guys that are considered to be a chain or a firm. And the only thing you have to do to be a chain or a firm is have two stores. So two stores all the way up to Couche-Tard or 7-Eleven, it's classified as a chain. The single store operators over the last 16 years, those are the guys that have really grown our industry. What stayed flat is chains. 16 years ago, we had 59,000 chain stores in the country. Today, we have 57,000 chain stores in the country. And you look at the top 20 U.S. chains, you have companies like 7-Eleven, Couche-Tard at 1 and 2, comprising, at least today anyway, about 13,000 of those stores. And then you go down the list. What you see in red are the companies that have declined over a 5-year period, declined in store count. What's in black is obviously those companies that have increased their store count over a 5-year period. And what you see starred are those companies that are MLPs, those ones that have been on a very aggressive growth track over the previous 5 years. And what's driving some of this merger and acquisition work? We've talked about this at the beginning of this presentation. The last several years, we've walked in and said, man, these MLPs are going nuts. They continue to feed the beast. They've got to continue to feed the beast. That's what their model's based on. And they're buying people left and right. And they've continued to do that, but not quite as much as what they have in the past. What's feeding M&A now, and you look at the more significant acquisitions that have happened over the last 12 months in our industry, is you've got significant amounts of foreign investment now coming into our industry. We haven't had that in a while. And certainly not at the rate that we're having right now. Foreign investment, Chilean companies, Israeli companies, even a very large Canadian company attracted to our industry, attracted to our assets in the United States. And then you have private equity. We've really never seen a ton of that either. But these two groups are attracted by a couple of things. One is stability. We have a lot more stability. As you guys know, fuel margins have been pretty good over the last 3.5 years. We haven't had those volatile swings as much as we've had in the past. There's stability there, but also what we've done on the inside of our stores has really driven quite a bit of that. As our inside profits have grown, it's almost like a stock portfolio where you got this one wildly erratic stock that's either really good or really bad. We've seen on the fuel side a little bit over the last 40 or 50 years. Then you've got this other more stable growth stock that just continues to grow and grow and grow and grow. Well, put those two together in your portfolio, and you've got diversification. That's what's happened, and that's what's attracted either this foreign investment or private equity investment, or in many cases, foreign private equity investment into our industry. And we've seen quite a bit of that, as you guys can see on the slide in front of you. Now, we talked a lot about the motor fuel price trends. You look at over the last 5 years, and you see that 2015, 2016 were low. In fact, 16 was lower than we've seen in a long, long time, at an average of $2.17 a gallon. And you look at what our transactions were, both inside and outside. See, that's the part where we talked about. Lower fuel prices equals more gallons equals more inside. And that's what you see playing out in front of you. And if you even added 2014 on here, you'd see an incremental growth each month over the previous year's month. Every single month in 16, from a transaction count, was better than its predecessor the year before. Industry sales. Now we're down, but we all know that's based and driven by the cost or price of fuel. We're down 4.3% to $550 billion. If we were a country, if we said, you know what, we're going to be the country of NACS. I was sitting beside Kevin Smart earlier. He's from Texas. He talks a lot about the country of Texas. We could do the same thing, the country of NACS. Thank you guys for that. I thought it was pretty good. We could be the country of NACS. And if we were a country, our GDP would be 21st in the world. Put that in perspective. But we all know you don't take sales to the bank, you take profits to the bank. And you have 3 years in a row where we've had significant profit increases. 3 outlier years. You look at the trend line, we shouldn't be anywhere close to this. We should be high-fiving one another because we're at $8 billion, $8.1 billion, not 10.6 or 10.4 like we were 2 years ago or 10.2 like we were this past year. 3 years in a row of record profits. Looked at a different way, this is my third year of doing this presentation. And Glenn Plumby with Speedway, the three previous years before me, I'm sure he stood up here and was really proud of himself. He did good. Those were record years for our industry. But look at him compared to the last 3 years. And as we say in Atlanta, Georgia, bless his heart, he did his best. And I will pass a hat around shortly to get me to do it for a fourth year in a row. But that's the point, and I hope I made the point. We've had 3 record years of profits. Now, what's that doing to us? Is it giving us a false sense of security? Is it giving us a head that's bigger than maybe we should have right now? Is it making us feel a little bit more comfortable at what we stand right now as an industry? Or is it the new normal? Have we turned the corner? Have we figured this whole game out? And we're rocking and rolling now, and this is the way it's going to be from here on out. Well, it might be if I keep doing this presentation. But industry pre-tax profits versus our credit card fees. And we've talked for a long time as an industry about swipe fees. And you can see for a 9 or 10-year run, the credit card companies, based on their fees from sales, from transactions at our stores, for 9 or 10 years, they made more than we did. Wrap your brain around this. We've shown this slide a couple of times. But for 9 years in a row, they made more money off of our stores than we made in pre-tax profits. Now, I want to raise something. Many of you guys in this room were at the NACS Government Relations Summit last month in Washington, D.C. One of our talking points was Durbin repeal. The Durbin Amendment that we fought so hard for over the last number of years is now under fire. In fact, this year, it'll come before the House. It'll come before the House this spring. And so I want to encourage you guys. This is my public service announcement. I want to encourage you guys to talk to the folks from the NACS GR team. If you walk out these doors, go about 100 feet. They're there on the left. It's probably where you checked in last night or this morning. Those guys can help you get in touch with your congressman. We've got to continue to fight to make sure Durbin stays in place. So see those guys. I see Paige and Kelly in the back. Grab those guys afterwards. They can help you guys out. They can help our industry out. We've got to continue to fight. I know it's a tired argument. I know many of our congressmen are tired of hearing about it. We've got to continue to fight for this. It pushed $800 million back in our consumers' pockets when it was implemented on an annual basis. That's how critical it is to our industry and to our customers that are in that industry, that come to our stores, rather. So sales. The biggest thing I want to highlight here really is fuel gallons continue to be on the rise at 2.6%. And then in-store, down below in blue, you see the primary driver being food service at 5.6% growth year over year, driving the total in-store growth of 3.2%. Now again, what do we take home? Those are the profits. That's the important part. Well, the total gross profits were 33.2% higher, $88,000 per store per month. Total gross profit. And you look at store operational productivity, and you look at it by quartiles, the best of the best versus those guys on the bottom. Now, I'm going to eliminate for now, or I'm going to take away the second and third quartiles, and I want to compare the top quartile versus the bottom quartile in our industry. This is a pretty significant number on both sides. 25% of our stores, obviously, by definition of quartile, are in each of these columns. And I want you to see the disparity that we're showing here. The motor fuel gallons sold, the top quartile, almost twice as many gallons sold as the bottom quartile. Merchandise sales, almost twice as many. Food service sales, an astounding 5 times that of the bottom quartile. $50,000 versus $10,000. In-store gross margin percent, 34% versus 27%. And you look at core direct store operating expenses. So you got the profits, here's the expenses. Wages and benefits driving this, 2015 to 2016. We're up 7.2% as an industry. Total direct store operating expenses up 6.2%. Facility expense also driving that number up 10.4% for an overall operating expense and facility expense increase of 7%. Probably not sustainable. Because you look at the next slide. You look at specifically these are the 12 months that we had in 2016. You take a look at this slide. You've got inside gross profits. That trend line is the green dashed line, and you've got direct store operating expenses trend line is obviously the red line. They're trending the wrong way. Again, long term, this isn't going to be sustainable. Our expenses are increasing, specifically the last 4 months of last year, at a rate far greater than our profits. Incremental profits are increasing. And you peel back the layers a little bit on those direct store operating expenses. The primary culprit is wages and benefits. Again, like I said earlier, 7.2% increase. Health insurance, up 10.3%. Workers' comp is up on a percentage basis, but on a very small base. But it's health insurance and wages that are really driving most of that. And then you look at some more of the bad news. You look at turnover. Store associate turnover, since ACA went into play, has continued to increase. But over the previous 4 years, it increased at a nominal amount, a few percentage points a year. And we could withstand that until we got to last year. These are our store associates. They're leaving us in droves. And then you look at our managers. And we've always bragged about our manager turnover, 12%, 14%, 14%, 10%. That's really, really, really good until we got to last year. And the next research team has picked apart this number in all ways possible to make sure it's right. And we feel pretty confident this number's right. 27% of our managers said, you know what, I'm going to go do something different. I'm out. And you look at people productivity. You look at our people productivity. These numbers are fairly stable across the board. It really doesn't matter what quartile you're in. It's impacting every single one of us, whether it's the best performing store or the least worst performing stores. Now, gross profit dollars per labor hour, a little bit stronger as you'd expect, 25, 30% higher from top quartile to bottom quartile, but the rest of these numbers are relatively flat. And a number that all of us grapple with, what does it really cost when I turn over an employee? And we can debate these numbers till the cows come home, and I get that, I understand that. But when you look at the cost of turnover, the average cost to hire, recruit, hire, train, and equip these guys to do their jobs, you look at an hourly store associate, and they're stratified by the number of stores that these companies have. It can cost anywhere from $938 to $1,700 if you have more than 200 stores. The mean is $1,300, the median is $772 for an hourly store associate. That's the cost of turning these guys over at a rate far greater than 100%. Every single one of these guys in our stores statistically is leaving us on an annual basis, and then some. So for the assistant managers, same thing. The cost goes up. Those guys that are leaving us at a rate of over 20%, that years previously had been in the low to mid-teens, it can cost us anywhere from $2,500 if you have just a couple of stores, all the way up to $7,400 if you have more than 200 stores. Now, how do we keep these guys? And this is another shameless plug. For the next Coca-Cola Retailing Research Council, which I'm a proud member of, we've spent the last 2 years figuring out we can't just keep complaining about turnover. We can't keep talking about turnover. We've got to do something about it. And so we launched a 2-year study to really get to the bottom of it. And it's pretty simple. Whether you believe it or not, it's pretty simple. The more you can engage. Now, what does that engage word mean? Depends on what kind of company you are and how you want to define it. But those employees that are engaged at a deeper and a higher level are the ones that are going to stick around more. They're going to provide better customer service, faster customer service. They're going to actively promote your business. And, of course, lower employee turnover. In many cases, we fight for a nickel or a penny or a dime on some of the product, some of the merchandise we have, some of our direct expenses that we can really tangibly quantify, that's easier to quantify. But when you look at the cost of turnover, we're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. This is a huge cost to us, to our industry, to all of retail in general. And it's only going to become more and more difficult with unemployment being at 4.7%. So capital productivity. Again, I'm looking at it by quartiles. Store operating profit. Between the top quartile, it's double that of the second quartile and almost 10 times that of the bottom quartile. Make this, again, a little bit more simple. Eliminate some of the noise. You've got the top quartile versus the bottom. We've never seen this degree of disparity ever before in our industry. When you've got store operating profit between the top and the top 25% and the bottom 25% of nearly 10 times, that's astounding to me. On a per square foot basis, 7.5 times. Break-even cents per gallon, nearly 20 cents. We've never seen that kind of gap. When the guy across the street from you that might be a top quartile company, and you're a bottom quartile company, and he's got a 20-cent advantage on you just for turning the lights on in the morning, there's a problem. You're in trouble. You need to figure out if you want to still be in the business. EBITDA, a difference of $44,000 per year. You throw in the cost of real estate and look at EBITDA, and it's a 24.5 times multiple. The bottom quartile had a negative earnings for the year in 2016. Very few companies, Amazon apparently can do it, but very few companies can continue to lose money and still remain in business. As simple and as silly as that sounds. But we've never had these kind of numbers before. When you look at return on capital employed, the top quartile at 13%, and the bottom quartile, why show up for work in the morning? Almost 0%, 0.37%. So the key points, we're rounding third and we're headed for home. The key points, you saw this slide earlier. We did have another flurry of M&A. We did have low fuel prices, more gallons, and more gallons equating to more inside. But we've also seen a bump in fuel prices. 51 cents in January of this year to January of 2016, higher. So fuel prices are creeping up. Gallons are starting to trend down a little bit. You guys saw that on the chart. We're the lowest gallon point that we've been in 4 years. And inside, how's that going to impact us? You look at the cost and the availability of labor, but more importantly, the labor that we have, the ones that we want to have, the ones we want to keep, how do we continue to keep those guys? And yes, we did have a third consecutive record year of profit. But what does the future hold in store for us? Can we continue to stay on that incline? Even if I don't give this presentation next year, can we continue to stay on that incline for a fourth consecutive year of profits? And what we really have is the tale of two industries. Like I said, we've always said, gosh, you've got the single store guys and you've got the chains. Well, that's still obviously true. But now the two industries that we have within our one big industry seems to be the haves and the have-nots, the rich and the poor, the top quartile and the bottom quartile, and the level of disparity that we're seeing between those two right now. And so as we look to the future, and again, we'll start with this complicated star and all the external factors that are impacting us. As we look to the future, keep in mind what's going on with inflation. Highest point it's been in 4 years. Interest rates. Like I said, we've seen one hike from the Fed already this year. We'll probably see 2 more. Corporate taxes, who in the heck knows? Consumer spending. They're keeping their cash in their pockets a little bit more these days, holding cash a little bit tighter to them these days. And certainly labor, as we've talked about it. Guys, I appreciate the time that I've had before you guys. I hope you get a tremendous amount out of the next day and a half, our state of the industry. Thank you guys again for this morning.